Welcome back. This is the second part of session 1 looking at the Creative Technology Toolkit material for the UWE Creative Technology Master Core module. In last session we looked at how to create a developer folder, and inside the developer folder I put the core software that I downloaded from openFrameworks.cc. We looked how inside the apps folder and in my apps, other things that I will build. We looked at the simple structure. We also went to the GitHub website, github.com, UWE Creative Technologies. This is where we keep our code repositories that we share, that we can contribute to, and we use GitHub or Git to track versions so we can see the changes and updates and allow us to share and contribute without ending up with multiple versions being confused between different folders and different hard drives and different machines. It means that the master version is kept in one place and we can take copies of it, modify, and then exchange those modifications back up to the master version. We downloaded all of the software examples from the CT Toolkit sessions, and we downloaded a zip file, put it into our apps folder, my apps, inside the openFrameworks folder, and we launched Xcode, our development environment, to edit the source code of the first session. If I flip to Xcode, you can see I've got it open here in session 1, and in the SRC, the source folder, we have a header file with various functions and routines and abilities for our program to respond to input described, and in the CPP, the C++ file, we can see these various loops described and what they do. The setup loop here doesn't have any instructions in yet, but we could add things. The update loop doesn't have either, but the draw loop has quite a lot of elements inside it. The first of which we looked at of how to draw circles using OF framework instructions, how to draw rectangles, how to pass them these parameters that give more information to the functions to describe what they should do, in this instance the X and Y location of an object and its size. And we looked at how the development environment is understanding some of what's going on and highlighting things with color code hinting to help us read our source code more easily. We saw that these two slashes at the beginning of a line indicate that this is a comment. We saw how we can use the cout command, console output, and we use these arrows to literally make a pipeline sending information to output, and we can print that out in our debug console to see what's going on inside our application. And if we put in 2 slashes, it comments that out and it won't be executed. There's a task here at part 3. The command ofLine followed by x1, y1, x2, y2, literally our start and end points of the line, allows us to draw a line. So we're going to see if we can draw a line from one side of the screen to the other. So I know the command is OF, and helpfully openFrameworks comes up and says, I know some things with different names. Is it possibly one of these? And as I start typing, it comes up with everything that begins with OF draw, and I could scroll down and it shows me what is it expecting, what parameters or numbers should be given to that instruction, and down at the bottom there's a simple piece of text giving you a helpful information. So I want to go OF draw line, and this first one, float x, float y, float x2, float y2. It draws a line between 2 points, x1, y1, x2, y2, and then some other things. I'm going to click return and it fills it all in for me, and it shows me what it's expecting. Now float means a number that's a decimal, a floating point number, as opposed to int, which is an integer being a whole number such as 1, 2, 3, 4, a float being a decimal or floating point number such as 10.5, 1.742. In this instance, I can pass either a complete integer or a floating point number. At this point, it doesn't really matter. We're passing a number. We can't specify parts of pixels, but this is what it will expect. One of the things to remember is if we divide an integer and end up with a fraction or a decimal, and it's an integer specified number, it will ignore the fraction point. So if you divide the integer 1 by 2, it isn't 0.5, it's 0. So in this instance, I'm going to draw a line from 10, and if I hit the tab key, it goes to my next value and knows what it's expecting when I type in 10, to 100, tab 100. And then this is C++, so at the end I must tell it this is the end of the instruction, and I use the semicolon and click compile. It should draw me a line from 1010 to 100, 100, and here it is underneath our rectangle. Close my application. I'm going to come up and get rid of these elements, and I can comment them out. 2 lines, so I can see just what OF draw line is doing. So there is my line. If I tell it to draw to 500 pixels across and 500 pixels down, it will draw the same. And I can specify other things about the line or my drawing, such as colors and thicknesses. One task I'd like you to try is to draw a line with 4 corners to make a box. I'm going to come down to our next example and show how we can use OF_GET_WIDTH as a question to the computer. So if I were to say, select and copy this, I'm going to paste it into my source code further down and comment out this first one. So I know my code was working, and now when I muck around, I can comment this out in case it breaks. I'm going to start drawing a line from 10, 10 up in the top corner, and instead of saying a specific number I already know, 500, I'm going to say use OF_GET, and again Xcode is coming up and help me, get width, and it isn't an instruction, it's actually going to return me something, not void. This time it's going to return an int, and I can see that at the beginning. It's a question that takes no parameters, but returns me an integer, a whole number, which is the width of the screen. So OF_GET_WIDTH will actually get replaced with the number that gets returned by that question. What is the width of the screen? And I can ask the same here, OF_GET_height, and again it's going to ask a question of the computer and return me an integer, a whole number, which will be put then into this instruction. So in just the same way that multiplication and division and addition and subtraction gets done in a specific order, the same will happen here. The computer will look at this instruction and go, oh, you want me to draw a line from a start point to, there should be 2 values from an end point, but actually you've got 2 questions. What's the width of the screen? And what's the height of the screen? Well, I should ask those first, so it goes and finds the width and the height, brings back the numbers and puts them in, and then executes the command, draw the line. So if I run this now, it goes from 1010 to the width and the height. And if I drag the shape of the window, it's dynamically finding the value in a loop every time my code is going round and round and round for the width and the height of the screen. And this simple thing where we can tell the computer to do something based upon some other thing that is dynamically changing is fantastically powerful and actually very simple, based upon this idea of saying, tell the computer to do something and tell it what to do, specifically associated with that thing, or ask a question. Make tea for 10 people, or make tea, but find out how many people are in the room and make tea for that number of people. So I can ask questions and give instructions. After I've got draw line, I can then go and start to play with color, and you can see I use this instruction, OF set color. I have 3 values, red, green, and blue. And in computers, they use 8 bits, 8 binary bits, to be able to make a value between 0 and 255. Actually 256 separate tones, but because computers start at 0 rather than 1, we get 0 to 255 rather than 1 to 256. So this being red, this being blue, green, and this being blue, 0, 0, 0 makes black. No red, no green, no blue. Or 255, 255, 255 is the maximum red, maximum green, and the maximum blue. And out of that, that makes 16 million separate combinations of color. So if I just set the color to be black, and now draw, I get a line in black. OF set color sets the primary drawing color in its first instance. If afterwards I say, actually, let's have a look at what this line does, OF set color to draw in white, 255, 255, 255, and run again, even though I have a command to set the color to black, my line is drawing in white, still drawing dynamically. The reason it's drawing in white is I draw my line, then I set the color to black, and then without doing anything else, I set the color back to white again. And the code loops around, draws, sets it to black, sets it to white. So the order in which I give the computer instructions is really important. Work through the rest of the example. You can see how instead of using get width and get height, we can actually find out dynamic things from the computer. The coolest one being mouse X and mouse Y, which tells us the X and Y position of the mouse, which suddenly means we can do dynamic things with input. We'll work through the rest of the session, ask questions in the Slack group, and bring any questions and the work that you've built into session, and we'll discuss it.